Anger and frustration are mounting after President Trump reportedly declined Paramount's offer to settle the $20 billion CBS 60 Minutes lawsuit. Paramount was prepared to cough up $15 million, according to an exclusive Wall Street Journal story. Trump's team wants them to bring more than $25 million to the table, along with an apology, or it's no deal.
To make matters worse, media advocacy group Freedom of the Press is threatening to sue Paramount and its chair, Shari Redstone, if they settle. The group sent Redstone a warning letter, even as she is in the middle of trying to push through an $8 billion merger with Skydance Media. The group writes, corporations that own news outlets should not be in the business of settling baseless lawsuits that clearly violate the First Amendment.
As a reminder, President Trump is suing CBS over their 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, which he says was deceptively edited. CBS has firmly denied the allegations, but fallout from the lawsuit has caused multiple people at the company to step down from their roles.
Some social media users are up in arms over the proposal of a settlement. Co-founder of Indivisible, Ezra Levin, writes, when you cower to a bully, you teach the bully to bully you more. Also, the 12 people with Paramount Plus subscriptions should cancel those. Senior fellow at the American Immigration Council, Aaron Recklin-Melnick, says, pathetic stuff, just pathetic. I suspect this may be our most vigorous segment of disagreement here today, Amber, because I do regard Trump's suit against Paramount for this as fairly absurd and intimidatory. I will just say flat out that I think the narrative around the 60 Minutes interview is wrong. I don't think that 60 Minutes did anything wrong. I think they pruned or clipped an answer to condense it. I do not think they changed Kamala Harris's meaning. I don't think they left out anything that would have embarrassed her. I see some, I don't know how people come to this conclusion, claims that the answers were pasted together from other parts of the interview. If you look at the transcript, that isn't what happened. The answers were shortened in a completely standard journalistic practice.
I do think it would have embarrassed her to have the full clip appear as opposed to the shortened version, because you see her stumbling over her words, kind of struggling to find the answer that she's trying to convey, and it obviously fed into this idea that Kamala Harris was an empty suit, that she didn't have the capability of speaking well publicly, that she wasn't able to speak in depth about certain policy issues.
I don't want to interrupt the flow of your argument. I just don't agree with that characterization. I think that it is a slightly verbose, slightly hesitant answer. If you wanted to find, because this is not to be just like, yay, Kamala's great. If you wanted to find instances of her being inarticulate, you could easily find 10 or 20 that were much worse than that. Anyway. So
oh yeah, she has a lot of them.
Yeah, but I just don't think that was an intention intended to conceal a particularly damaging answer.
Well,
anyway, go on.
I think the lawsuit is intended to find out, right? I actually don't think the Trump administration has any sense that they would actually win a suit if they were going to go to trial. This isn't even really a defamation case. This is a news distortion case, which is pretty difficult to prove in and of itself. CBS, of course, has a broadcast license, which the FCC is also looking into. But I think this is about discovery. And the Trump team wants to go into discovery to see if they can find CBS editors, producers, perhaps higher up senior executives making a decision to edit that clip for political purposes. That's what they're trying to suss out. And CBS and Paramount obviously don't want to go to discovery for, we talked about this a few weeks ago, the same reason Fox didn't want to go into discovery for the Dominion lawsuit. So I think that's why they're trying to settle this case. It's not because they think they would lose the lawsuit, but they don't want emails, text messages that could be potentially embarrassing to the company, even if they don't have anything specifically to do with editing of that clip to get out there. So I actually think the Trump administration, or the Trump team rather, is doing this because they want to find some compromise that proves their claims about liberal media bias.
We even disagree on the motivations of each side here, Amber, because I don't see Paramount's motivation in offering a settlement to this to be the avoidance of discovery. I consider Paramount's motivation to be pretty plainly expediting this merger with Skydance.
Oh yeah, I think it's 50-50. Yeah.
And the merger with Skydance requires federal approval, and so that's why Shari Redstone in particular appears loath to get crosswise with Trump, because he and his administration would have the capacity to block the merger. And I think that is a really clear problem. And I find the legal, or the threat of suing from the Free Speech or Freedom of the Press organization that we quoted, I do think that's really interesting, because their argument is, in essence, that if Paramount paid 15 million or 25 million to settle this case, which in my view that organization rightly sees as a baseless claim on Trump's part, that it would in effect amount to de facto bribery, because it would be paying Trump off to not block a merger. Now, obviously I have no idea if that claim would prevail in the courts, but I do think it serves at least as a counterweight to this rather craven possibility of Paramount surrendering, having done nothing wrong.
I thought the ABC lawsuit against George Stephanopoulos was an obviously stronger case for the Trump team, because they had George Stephanopoulos saying on air that Trump had been found liable for rape, which was, I mean, I guess at best you could argue the judge sort of post-decision made a claim like that, but it wasn't what was actually found through the judgment. And so for them to settle that, I thought was wise, because I didn't think they would do well in trial. This one to me is more spurious, and I think we agree on that.
Yeah, we do. The ABC one was about the differentiation between sexual abuse, of which Trump was found civilly liable, and rape, of which he wasn't. And then, as you say, the judge afterwards sort of said, well, it amounts to the same thing because of specifics of a New York law. And I didn't think Stephanopoulos should have said what it was George Stephanopoulos, I'm not sure if we mentioned that, made the charge. And I think that was not very wise. This one, I do totally agree, is more spurious. And I think that it is very dangerous to see an organization that is so big and influential, and 60 Minutes for all that the media has changed is still a big, a widely viewed program in this country. And I think it would be terrible if they bent the knee for having done, in my opinion, nothing wrong. We shall see.
Next up, President Trump says he's thinking about pardoning the group of men who were charged with plotting to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer.